Hey, Rick Salmon here. Thank you so much for joining me for my video blog Behind the Scenes. This week, in episode 3, we're going to talk about making more creative images by altering time, which is why I have the time background here. We're also going to talk about using ND filters for making more creative images. Now, an ND filter reduces the amount of light entering your camera, just like sunglasses reduce the amount of light reaching your eyes. Let's get started. This is one of my favorite pictures from one of my workshops up in Iceland. I like the way the waves and the water are beautifully blurred, yet the icebergs are tacked sharp. Now, even though it was an overcast day, it was fairly bright out there, so I had to use an ND filter to reduce the amount of light entering my camera so I could shoot at a slow shutter speed. So here's the basic thing you want to remember when you're using an ND filter. You want to set your ISO to the lowest possible ISO setting, and you want to use the smallest aperture. So if you're shooting on the aperture priority mode, which is what I do, the camera will automatically set the shutter speed to the lowest possible shutter speed at that setting. But again, it was so bright out there, my shutter speed was over 1/100th of a second, which would not give me that beautifully blurred water. So with the ND filter, I was able to get a shutter speed of 1/6 of a second. Now, I recommend using Breakthrough Photography fixed ND filters. There are fixed ND filters and there are variable ND filters. Fixed ND filters come in different grades. I always travel with a 6-stop ND filter and a 3-stop ND filter. On a bright day, I'll use a 6-stop. On a not so bright day, I'll use a 3-stop. I also stack these if it's super bright outside, so you can do this also. Let me tell you about the difference between a fixed ND filter and a variable ND filter. A variable ND filter is basically a double polarizing filter. And yes, it reduces the light, but some strange things can happen. I took this picture up in Iceland again with the fixed ND filter. Now, I simulated this effect in Photoshop because I don't use variable ND filters. But look at the dark spot in this picture compared to this picture. If you dial in the effect all the way and if you're using a wide angle lens and the sun's off to the side, you can get this dark spot in your picture. Here's the next question. What shutter speed should I use? Well, of course, the answer is it depends. Here, I needed a shutter speed of 8 seconds to create the effect I wanted here. That water looks so silky, so milky. So the longer the shutter speed, the silkier, the milkier the water is going to look. Here on the Oregon coast, my shutter speed was 1/5 of a second. And by the way, I like the way the water is flowing out here. I was experimenting with the water coming in, going out, and I really like the way the water looked as it was coming out and really caressing these rocks. But here the water's coming in, and I used a 1/6 of a second shutter speed. When you're photographing moving water, you really want to look for gesture. It's the gesture of the waves of the water that can make the difference between a great shot and a snapshot. The next thing you want to think about is getting a really good tripod. I recommend using really Right Stuff tripods. They're the best that I've found. People come on my workshops, they have cheap tripods, they always leave buying another tripod and a good tripod. So having a good tripod when you're shooting at a slow shutter speed is very, very important. Here's the color version of my Iceland picture. Nice enough, but to me it looked a little flat. I could have boosted the contrast and increased the saturation, but the blue ice started to look like a little fake. So whenever I get a picture that I like, I try to see what it's going to look like in black and white. So I went into NYX Silver Efex Pro. I selected the red filter, which gives you that nice dramatic sky, and I boosted the contrast a little, and I got, again, one of my favorite shots from Iceland. So as you can see, you can make some really creative images simply by altering time. Well, my friends, I hope you enjoyed that short video blog. If you are interested in making more creative images, check out my workshops, my seminars, my books, and my online classes. You'll find everything on ricksalmon.com. I'll catch you later.